There we are.
And we are live. I guess we've been live for a minute. Can
Oh
always,
my.
I always get it wrong. I always get it wrong. All right.
Welcome, 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 family.
Hope everybody's doing well. Welcome to being with us today. We are H&D Abroad. As always, I am Herman.
And I'm Dee, and I'm on another house sit. And it
I'm
is
excited and sad at the same
beautiful.
time.
Yeah, these ocean views, I'm all about that. I'm all about that. I needed that. But the temperature and humidity is about to take me out. So
Oh yeah.
early mornings and sunsets are when I see the beach. But yeah, that is a great part of house sitting, but it is also my heart is sad because I can't be with my honey. So when we were going into this, I wanted to first say, if you're new here, welcome.
Absolutely.
Let's
Yeah,
see. So our channel is H&D Abroad, where we are talking about moving abroad as a plan A for creating generational wealth and living a healthy lifestyle. But that plan A specialty group, because we are a couple, is all about Black couples. So we're going to do some content over the next few weeks about Black couples and some of the hurdles Black couples, especially those that are with young adults that you are leaving behind that have left home. Like, what's going on with that? What is going on? So, um, if this kind of content, if we are your people, we
yeah.
are opening our community, our tribe to you. So I want to say hello to our tribe that's in the comments. Hey, 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 Nikki. Hey, Servant Teacher Nikki. We are in this place. Please shout out
Remember,
yourselves.
we are a conversation channel. We're not here to be observed. We're here to share and to engage with you. I see you on there. It tells us you all are watching. So let us know you're here. Give us a shout out. Drop your name in there. Tell us you're here. And please
Yeah,
join in the conversation because it's important to us that we conversate. We're we're learners. We're educators by trade, but we're also learners. And a part of this process is for us to be able to learn from you and your experience. So please join
like the
in.
video. Subscribe. We've got a lot of people who watch us regularly. Thank you. Please subscribe to our channel because we're talking about this kind of content every week. And hit the notification bell so that you are reminded when we go live. So welcome to everyone. Let's see. So we have been researching. Yes, thank you for saying we your people, girl. Yes, yes. We let's see. So as I don't really like titles, but what the internet is calling our group with young adult children who have moved on, and we are now mostly in the home um, ourselves by ourselves, is we are empty nesters. Um, empty nest syndrome is a thing, y'all. Syndrome, really? Okay, now I'm sounding like some kind of mental health crisis, but it can be an identity shift. And that's why we talked about, we're talking about this in relationship to relation shift. I
Hmm.
got this term from a couple that was interviewed on the Drew Barrymore show. So I linked, there's a link to that episode in the description box. But I sent it to Herman and said, is this us? Like, are we in a space where we're needing to redefine, like who we are? How did you take that? Because it was both the both spouses that were on the show.
So first, I'll say hello. Welcome to Cheryl T. Glad you and your husband found us. That's cool. Great. Please share us with other couples. We're wanting to be a part of a big community. Hey Greta, what's going on?
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah, we're hoping to get down to San Miguel de Allende because our people are there. Our folk, we are friends with a lot of folk that are in San Miguel. It is beautiful. Yeah, we had to beg the airline to take our money so we could get back to Mexico. I was like, what is going on with this website? But we finally got it locked in, and if we're going to shout out when we're going to be in the area, Cheryl.
Absolutely.
So please, hopefully, we'll get a chance to meet in person.
All right.
But
So to
what
answer
did
your
you?
question,
I was
yeah.
about to say, what were you feeling when you saw them talking about it?
Well, I mean, okay. So publicly, I'm a romantic at heart. Um, is why she hasn't run away yet for you folks, because I'm still putting food on the table. I'm still bringing flowers. And one of my personal aspirations, dreams, goals, however you want to look at it, I guess it depends on the angle,
Hmm.
for this move abroad is to make a reconnection in this developmental part of our lives.
Hmm.
And we're not talking about, we've lost touch with each other. uh, Talking about putting some things in place that haven't always been able to be prioritized
Right.
because of life. I mean, I applaud people who have nannies and in home school teachers. I applaud people who have people to watch their cats and their dogs, and who make a comfortable amount of money. I'll say it like that. That always is in place for them, and they can come and go to the lake and go to the beach and go on the. But that hasn't always been the case, and so I was proud, happy to see that there's a couple who was making that same kind of commitment to each other, just to
Hmm.
find some of the things that they hadn't been able to do as a regular part of their lives. In no way am I saying that our children have been in the way. I don't think that's the case. I think as adults, we prioritize what life is supposed to look like. And in trying to prioritize that for our children, we lower the priority of how we engage each other. Not necessarily lower the priority of our relationship, even though that does happen to some people. But I think we lower the priority on what we can do, or we can't afford that, or we'll do that next time, or and and I think at this point in our life, even though a lot of some of those same challenges exist, even without the young people here in the house, we've decided now is the time.
Hmm.
Now is the time to, if I'm going to have you, I'm going to have you now. And
Yeah. I so what it brought up for me, if I were to kind of identify some words, is getting on the same page,
mhm,
um, with intention. So I think a lot of the life that you live when you are a parent is trying to balance work and all of the living,
mhm,
that kids do with, school and after school. We were homeschooling parents for a long time. Business development, travel for work, but not
mhm,
for pleasure.
mhm,
Debt repayment more recently. And so when you're adding those things up, um, it feels like you're getting a lot of subtraction in your life, without addition. So I
Mhm.
want to be
Mhm.
intentional about, hey, who am I? Like, who, if you have not gone through identity crisis between your 20s and 30s and your 30s and 40s, I'm pretty sure it's going to hit you by 50. Like, your whole lived experience is changing. So you're having to get to know yourself, and then you're trying to get to know this person who you've been either operating in a parallel, but like, you
Mhm.
got to reconnect. What I
Mhm.
loved is that the counselor that was on there with them, had them do an activity that said, show me a picture of a time where you were connected. And they both chose the same photo. I think if you if you go back to try to connect to who you were, I think it does elicit some emotions, but I need the new stuff too.
Mhm. So what we want to try to do in this conversation today is just kind of hit on some of the points that might be conversation pieces that have been conversation pieces for us, and that might be conversations for you as couples as you are transitioning your young people to more independent spaces. See, I didn't say put them out. I didn't say send them away. Transition them to more independent space, and that can be something as simple as they go into college to the dorm room. We have two who moved into their own personal spaces. Uh, Trust me, we're still helping them through all the many pieces, but they don't live here. Their noise is not here, and their sounds are not here. We're not cooking for them anymore, and that goes into what is sometimes classified as the empty nest syndrome. Um, it, it, you 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 don't know how to downsize. Um, it's like someone who, culinary reference, obviously. It's like someone who works at a large institution going to then who goes home to cook a meal. Every time they're cooking at home, they're cooking for 40 people, even though it's 3 people live in the house, because every time they cook, they're cooking more. When you are used to buying, it's 5 of us. And you're used to buying for 5 people, when you're used to accounting for the times and the schedules for 5 people, when you're used to adjusting to the noise, and okay, I have to do this at this time because they'll be up. We had 3 night owls, so we had to adjust when we were in the bed, and then all of a sudden it's quiet all the time. They're making decisions away from you, without regularly, even if they're calling you all the time. I know people say, "Oh, my kids, we talk every day," but they're not coming to the house every day. There can be a sense of loss.
And
Um,
you mentioned, Davis, that, and I kind of saw it between the couples, like, because maybe it was because I was home with the kids so much in
mhm,
their growing up, um, that I have that sense of loss. Like, I don't get to mommy my kids. I mean, and I know that that's the little things that you're able to do because they're there have to be done with more intention. It can feel, for mothers, it can feel like a sense of loss. We have been intentional about trying to, give more space to independence from the time they were born. You can make your bed, you can, those independence, but when they are really like, our son called yesterday and said, I got a big raise as well as a promotion. You know, he making the kind of money it took me 10 years into my career, and he's 2 years in. Like, they are fully independent. So some of my it's a role shift. It can feel like a loss. I'm I'm there are times when I'm kind of sad
mhm,
that, but what it means that I'm making space for a new relationship, recognizing how our relationship is evolving, remembering what it was like, to leave home for college or leave home when we got married. There was a big shift for our parents when I was saying, my husband, and my mom was like, I know he's your husband. You don't have to say your husband all the time. It's a shift, to recognize it's a sense of an independence that I knew was coming, but was I really ready for it? So that syndrome, I think, touches a space of things are shifting. How do I feel about that? It's just change.
And I think there's some things to consider here. That there are differences in the gender of the parents, and they're addressing the absence of children, and there also can be a difference in how you feel based on the gender of the children.
Hmm.
Um, as fathers, I think, especially with sons, but in our children in general, we try to grow them to independence. Now, having said that, as fathers of daughters, okay, our oldest is we have our oldest is our daughter. You were a daughter, and your father had daughters. You always are a little more nervous when your girls are leaving the house.
Hmm.
It doesn't matter how strong they are. It doesn't matter how independent they are. The world can be. Um, we feel the world can be dangerous to women.
Hmm.
And so we have a bit of nervousness. Now, mind you, it doesn't mean that our sons are any more safe, any more secure. Again, I tell you all the time, I'm raising Black sons and raising boys of color. Them not being in my presence makes me nervous. But I'm also proud of their independence.
Hmm.
As a 22, 23-year-old, I had been dying to get out of the house. I was making every effort to find my own space. And she's saying no. And Servant Teacher Nikki is saying that she has that her 22-year-old won't leave her side. And I hear people say that.
Hmm.
Some people want their children to stay until they go. It was my desire that my children have some level of personal space for themselves so that they can know how to take care of their own space. So that if they ever chose to be partnered with someone, they first knew the intricacies and the responsibilities of maintaining the space. That doesn't mean you went straight from your folks' house to with us, and she's way more independent, way more structured than I am. So
Yeah, my
it
daddy,
depends on the people.
my dad said, my girls are home. I'm not going to require that you leave. I didn't leave until, I mean, we got married. I was closer to
26.
30.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're looking at, readiness, I know that our oldest probably would have stayed at home.
And
I mean indefinitely. And
mhm.
what we what we are currently working with her on is she she decided to get a roommate. Wasn't necessarily our ideal, but if that's what gives her the confidence to do it, then that's the path that she's chosen. She is in it to win it, but is like, yeah, I'm probably going to be making some different choices. If you have young adult children, young adults, because people get offended when I say children, when you have young adults that are a part of your family, how are you helping them to transition? Because it's, we kind of set a deadline. We worked, we set up spreadsheets. That the empty nest part of it is not them. It's
Mhm.
us.
Mhm.
It's what we bring to the table, what we experience, and how we are ready to let go.
Mhm.
Um or and recognize that there was a season for parenting, and now we are coming alongside you. Yesterday, my son got his renter's insurance and wanted me on the telephone. Yes, I'm on the phone. This is your conversation. So I did a little bit of coaching and then go for it. Y- Yeah, yeah.
And understand that in this
I
empty
see
nest
Cheryl's
syndrome.
comment. Yeah.
Yeah, in this empty nest syndrome, I need you to understand that this is something that you are dealing with as the parent. So this is not something that your young people are dealing with. This is what you are dealing with as a parent. In this space, and you got to remember, we are mental health professionals. I'm suggesting it becomes to a point where it's not manageable, that counseling is appropriate.
Hmm.
Finding someone with whom you can share the change of life, because life changes are apart. I think where we fail is we feel the need to power through. And there are so many developmental changes that happen in our lives that never has someone to whom you can say, this hurts. I'm afraid. It doesn't mean that your partner isn't a part of that, but each one of you are dealing with that differently.
Hmm.
Each one of you are expressing that differently. And if your partner doesn't match feelings the way you feel they need to be matched,
That's why we have sister circles
okay,
and brother circles so that
okay, yeah,
you can kind of come together and say, feel all the feels and where do we go?
I,
Cuz
I,
cuz
yeah,
the emptiness part of this isn't going to hold me back from moving abroad. Because I put myself on a schedule. I know that it, to kind of to bring this to the center, that helping our kids transition is early enough for them to meet some of those initial bumps was important to my peace
mm-hmm,
for leaving. And so
mm-hmm,
we kind of said to them, hey, so we are going to be leaving in 2024. What we'd like to help you all do is transition this year so that by next year you've had 4 seasons.
mm-hmm,
Battled ice storms, snow, you know, all the little first year bumps. You gotten a deposit for your apartment. You've navigated roommate issues if that's the case. And and so that's the confidence I need and worked with them. So we brought in professionals. If they need a coach, a money coach, we got them a money coach. If they needed somebody if they needed counseling because this brings a lot of anxiety, we brought in those resources. But no, I
and
ain't changing my plans just because you're not ready.
and,
And our
and
youngest
yeah,
is coming, has the option of coming with us. We got him
mm-hmm.
residency. So I don't know if I would feel confident leaving behind our 18-year-old if he said I'm not ready.
Agreed. Agreed. And I have to agree with what Cheryl is saying here.
Mhm.
We when the kids were younger, people would come and say, "Oh, your kids are this and that is so great, and they've done this and they're so polite." And we would have been fighting at home that whole week. And I'm going, "Whose kids are you talking about?
Exactly.
Whose kids?" And one of the things that I realized is I have not raised my children to get along with me in my house. I've raised my children to be good citizens. And if they leave my house every day and they are good, productive citizens and they are taking the things that we've learned them and they're applying them in the world, we can bump heads at home. And so I have to trust, again, that what we've given them, as Cheryl said, that what we've given them, they're going to utilize. It may not be right away. It might be to after some serious mistakes. It's not my job to micromanage their lives because then it's not their lives. And that's important to us. All right. So and I want to say hi to Sabongale. All right. So one of the biggest points of dealing as a couple with empty nesting is the same piece we deal with in every conversation that we have, and that's communication.
Honest, transparent.
Open
I ain't feeling it.
and no, there are no. As I tell D, the kids are not coming to help you. There's no there's no there's no save by the kids. That doesn't exist because, you know, what if we're the only two people in the house?
Oh, and when you move abroad, you just might be.
And
I mean,
and
like, woo! I mean,
and we're not
you gotta get in a rhythm.
and we're not talking about just can you sit down and hold a conversation together about something. Communication is mental, it's spiritual, it's physical, it's emotional. It is all the pieces of an engagement. Um, Sometimes you may be in a house and not say much to each other, but you're communicating with each other all day.
Mhm.
And that is from a sense of connection that, when you were young dating people, you sent each other little notes, you picked up the phone just to say hi and hang it back up, all the little things that there were no phone, there were no cell phones. I wasn't texting back 30 years ago. But I would go to her dorm and have people stick cards that I had bought and stick them underneath her door, and
Miss that.
um and write little poems, and they do all the little things, and being in the space together does not take away the opportunity to do those things. Okay. um uh, I can still send a little text note. We send each other songs, through the text that connected to YouTube. There's a constant level of communication, but we also talk about the important things. You hear me say regularly, I have to work to get out of my head. I hold a
Mhm.
whole lot of conversations in my head. It's the equivalent to complaining that your wife complained about you to her girlfriends, but she never came and told you because she blew it off. She got it all out
Mm.
before she talked to you.
Mm.
Being in your head, and so you had to say, hey, I don't having kids in the house helps the conflict avoidance men have.
Really?
Yeah, it just and it's not conscious. There's an episode of the Cosby Show where Claire finds a mug in the cabinet that the handle was broken. It was glued back together, and she says to Cliff, that somebody had the nerve to break my mug and then glue it back together. And he said, yeah, and stuck it all the way in the back of the pantry. And she said, how'd you know it was there? And he said, well, I just assumed it would be there. And she said, you did it, and you put all this tacky glue on there. And he said, well, I did, so that you would think one of the kids did it. Eh, there's a measure. There's a measure of getting away with
Deflecting?
things, of deflecting, having the kids around that you don't have anymore when they go away. Who broke this? There's only two of us here. And if you're asking, it clearly wasn't you. And the dog didn't climb up in there and break that. So there's a level of you've really got to get into as they say, get into the weeds, communication wise, because this point leads to all the other pieces we'll talk about today. It is the precursor to everything else. If you're not communicating, all the other pieces will never connect, in my opinion.
I think when we're talking about a path to reconnecting as empty nesters, the communication piece, the busyness, we could lean into the busyness and
Hmm.
not have to really spend time together. There was just the volume of things
Hmm.
kept us from either kept us from or allowed us to get comfortable with not dealing with the heart issues because there were so many other things
Hmm.
that were immediate needs that I can tell you as our kids got more independent and you have more time to think and feel. And so What do you do with that?
Hmm.
Um,
And and
to
and
to
and,
be
and
to be transparent. Woo, you go, okay, so I have a choice here. I can either keep on with business as usual because that's been our pattern, or I can say, this is painful, this hurts. Um, I feel, if you're going to use the psychology part of us, I
mhm,
feel blank when you, so that you're identifying for your partner that there is something happening. The
mhm,
the critical times when what we understand about marriage relationships, you've got that first year when you're just trying to figure out how to live together. Then by year 7, you've either settled into, I've got kids and I've lost touch with myself and I've lost touch with you. And so we see in developed countries that between year 1 and year 3 is when a lot of couples part. But this time frame that we're talking about, when the kids leave home, is another e- time frame, because you are figuring out things. And if you're not talking, if you're not keeping your partner up to date about what you are discovering about yourself, it's really easy to say, I don't have anything other than children and bills that keep us,
mhm. And what
that are connecting
that
us.
connect us
I don't
together.
know
Hmm.
you. I don't know you, and I don't feel like you are invested in me. That can be a really painful discovery.
Hmm. Servant teacher Nikki says something here. They have their neutral corners, so to speak, and they find some time away, and that's important.
That is so
But
important.
that understand that even in that, I think that has to be an intentional decision and not a habit decision, because I think a lot of times still too, you don't realize that you've been hiding. We have our spaces
Mm,
we go to when the kids are here. So the kids are here and I'm over here and you're over there. So now the kids are gone and I'm over here and you're over there. So there has to be a balance. I always use this, well, not always use the example, but in the creation story, Adam, Eve didn't just wander off. Adam was also preoccupied with whatever it was he was doing. And as men, we can get preoccupied with our personal time for whatever reason. So we're out in the garage working out, or we're out in the garage working on the car, or we're back in the hobby room working on whatever, or we're down in the basement watching ESPN. We get we get preoccupied, as do women. They get preoccupied with whatever hobbies or tasks or groups, and sometimes those can be ways to disconnect. We'll say unconsciously, sometimes on
right.
purpose. But a lot of times it's unconscious. It's not that we don't like to be together, we don't like to spend time together, but there's a habit of disconnecting. So there has to be a balance. I think it's important that you say, okay, right now I need to go over here and you need to go over there, and we'll come back. Like you said, Nikki, we come back when we when we miss each other. Yeah, because it's important. And understand that these statements are also individual to each couple. Because I know couples who don't live together, who are a great couple. They just don't live in the same house. They go everywhere together. They do everything together. But at the end of the day, they go to individual spaces. That for me, why are we doing this? If we're doing that, then why are we doing this?
If
But
there are you all using some strategies to reconnect? Please share that in the
mhm,
chat, because um, what I realize is, I think we are I think we're building some habits that we didn't realize that we have been building. So
mhm,
I was having a
mhm.
conversation when I got my hair done, which, y'all, this humidity has totally taken the sparkle, the joy out of getting my hair done. But um, we are intentional about the conversations that we have around finance. I'm going to switch to finance. The intentional conversations are, hey, what's happening? Hey, what's our spending? We look at the account together, we identify the goals that we have, eh, that's intentional conversation. Um, and so, yeah, uh, it's a, h- we've, we've had to do it when we were in the debt repayment part. Now we have shifted because the financial
Hmm.
conversation skills are now okay. So, what are we prioritizing? What are we going to do with this money now that bills aren't necessary? Like debt repayment is not the center of what we are. Um, and I thought that was normal. Like we were finally getting to what was normal. All couples sit down and have conversations, several conversations a week about money. And she was like, no, baby. She was
And
like, that's what she was like, me and my husband. She was like, I felt like he was trying to, you know, take over. And she was like, that was why we got divorced. She was like, it did. And I was like, okay, so I'm not even recognizing that we have skills, that there is intention around that.
and understand we need to be upfront and say that some of these habits that we've that we have come through adversity, and not necessarily have we been, like, using the financial as an example, not necessarily that we fought over money, but we've had money issues that have made us intentional about saying, what are we doing with our money? uh One shout out to my big brother Rick. Good to see
I
you,
was
Rick.
about to say, y'all, if y'all did not watch that episode with Rick and Halisi that we did, that was our first live interview. We talked about just the evolution of what it looks like for couples when you recognize this is hella hazard, and either if you don't deal with it, it's gonna tear you apart. You have to have intention, because if you are about saving but your partner is about spending and you don't address it.
And your money looks different when you aren't saying, hey, we're spending this on the kids. Hey, we're spending this on the kids. Hey, because you got several things to look at. One, if now there's an excess of money, and I'm using that in terms of there's more money in the pot because now we're not buying as much food, we're not paying for tuition. Do you have a plan for that money? If you don't have a plan for that money, which means you didn't ever have a plan for that money, now you run the risk of going crazy. Or you never had a plan for the money, and you still don't know why the same amount of money is leaving the house every month, even though you have nobody, the extra people to pay for. What's the conversation? Okay, so you and I are here, and we're still living on a $3,000 budget every month. What are we doing wrong? Still living on a $3,000-4,000 budget when before it was four, five, six of us in the house. Now it's two, and our budget is the same. What are we doing wrong? Are we still paying all of their cell phone bills? Are we still paying all of their insurance? Are we still, there are things that we decided. There are things that we've decided that we are going to help them do as they are launching. So they're still on the car insurance, because if something goes wrong with their car, we're still sharing cars. They're still on the health insurance because I need the money that they make at their jobs right now to be a part of their saving and building process. They can still come to the house and sit down and have
but
food with us and meal
but
plan
these
with
are
us.
but these are connection conversations, because you know I was like, they should be able to pay their cell phones. Once you have a
Right,
consistent, even
right.
if it's a part-time job, you can pay that $35 cell phone bill. Come on, man.
And when
Um,
they purchase their
but when
own
they
cars, they pay for their own car insurance.
insurance, yep.
They're on my car insurance until they get their own cars. Then they're off my car insurance and they're on their own car insurance. That's because that's necessary. I'm not paying their rent. I I can't. I have a mortgage to pay. I live here.
But we had to come to an agreement about it. Um, because this is a hot button, um, we issue. As a couple, we have to come to a consensus that how do we want to support them together. So
Yes.
yes, yes,
Gently.
Usher. Maybe I was like, you have until December. We gave them a December 31st time frame.
And that was
We got
before he
on the
left the
phone
house.
with them,
Mhm.
and so that we could. And they were like, "Oh, I didn't know it was this much." That's what I need you to understand, love.
Yeah. All right. So okay.
Okay, so what do you mean by changing priorities? Let's
Okay, so I think this is again a reiteration of what we've been saying this whole we back. We
yeah.
lost communication there for a minute. Hold on. Having some signal issues here. Hey, can you hear me, D?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it bounced on us a minute there. All right, sorry everybody. All right, so changing priorities. Um, the focus is no longer on how do we prepare this house for the kids. It's what are we doing?
Mm,
It we, we always had the conversation. We always had the conversation before we turn 50. Everybody will be graduated from high school. But I think I'll speak for me. I don't know if I ever prepared for their absence.
mm,
I don't think if I actively prepared for them to not be here, even though I mentally was trying to move them there, I don't think I actively prepared for them to not be here or to be 50
Ooh,
or to be 50.
Davis. Yeah.
I'm recognizing at 50, or I'll be 50 in just a couple of months. I'm recognizing at 50 that I was thinking 50 was going to feel older. And I'm understanding at this 50 point now why people are fussing. My parents don't do this, and my parents haven't prepared that, and my parents haven't gotten this together. 30 years went fast. Baby girl and I have been together 30 years, and 30 years went fast. And 30 years from now, we could be turning 80, Lord willing. And outside of your body screaming its, anger at you about it, you don't always recognize that life has changed the way that it has.
Mhm.
And because you're in the house with your children, you can see that they're growing. You know that they're taller than you. You can see how much they eat. You know that they're driving their cars. You're meeting, but there's a part of your head that sees that little kid.
Mhm.
And so at this point in life now, we're dealing with the fact that they're exiting. What's in it for me? What's in this for us? What are we doing?
Mhm.
Where are we going? Because everything has been unintentionally and intentionally about them,
Mhm.
trying to make sure they're safe, trying to make sure they're set up to, as I said earlier, be good citizens, trying to get them moved out into the world. But now they've done it. They're gone. Boom. And all of a sudden we're standing here and the priorities have changed.
So
Do we want to buy a
I'm
car?
going to say I'm going to say the changing priorities have happened because we've watched we've lost classmates.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, over the last 5 years,
10 years.
I mean, if we go back 10 years, but even the last 5 years, I mean, it makes you say that life we're not given till
Mm-hmm.
60 or 70 or 80. And and so recognize, I mean, that kind of external recognition, personal health issues have made me say, okay, so I might like to go out to eat all the time, but me and cholesterol are going to be in a head to head battle if I do. So I have to prioritize sleep, exercise, nutrition, stress relief. Um, I just, and emotional well-being. I have to intentionally create space. If you One of the things when we were churching, we were intentional about was bringing in mentorship of people who were about 10 years ahead of us.
Hmm.
Tell us tell us what that, I think in this move abroad community, we've tried to be really intentional about bringing those folks into our group, because it looks different. If I'm really going to pay attention, if I'm really going to prepare, if I'm going to sit down with you and say, okay, we I want a strong me and I want a strong we.
Not sure what's going on with our signal again here today. I'm going to keep going. Uh, you know, we you really want to make sure that as you're drawing people to you, as you're drawing people into your conversation, that there are people who are investing. I think that's what D is saying, that they're investing in your growth as a couple. They're investing in what is important to making this work. And as your priorities change, you know, Gerald said, there's so many things you realized had gotten dormant and you become complacent about. Comfort is a killer. Comfort and complacency are killers to relationships. Um, and unfortunately for men, it's our safe space. I
Mhm.
recognize this. We're doing this. This is so men get to the divorce table and go, nothing was wrong. I don't understand. This is what we're doing. What's the problem? And wives are saying it's got stale. Yeah, we didn't do this anymore. We aren't doing that. We aren't searching. We aren't. And so as your children are leaving the house, you have to change your priorities. Uh, uh, Let's see. We got look.
It's
Hey,
Halisi.
Halisi. We had to make sure we were looking at the same numbers, had a shared vision of the future, and that we were both in agreement on the plan for. Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, that communication piece, because you got to say what is important now. We talked about decluttering a couple of months ago. We talked about, what do I love this now? Am I deep in what's happening now? Uh, what's the big deal now? Okay, is being at work 10 hours a day, is that going to keep us together as a couple? Because we're still trying to make money. Dee and I still have to work, but if I'm at work all the time and she's at work all the time, and the only place we see each other is passing to the bed and passing from the bed, then where's the us? I'm going to shift us to the next one, D.
Mhm.
Um, and there's two parts to this, and identity shifts. Um, I'm not the 19-year-old boy I swear she fell in love with. I'm not that kid. I'm not the 26-year-old guy she married. I'm absolutely that kid. I'm absolutely that guy, but I'm absolutely not that guy. Life has thrown me all kind of curves where who I am has shifted on many levels, and that requires, and I'm going to immediately put the next one up: self exploration. I'm tying the two of those together. It's time for me, past time for me, to make sure I know who I am so I can have the joy of reintroducing myself to my bride. That's a big deal. And understand that that's a challenge for me because it you can easily get down on where life has and hasn't gone, and where it isn't based on who you thought it was going to be when you were a 22-year-old college graduate and a 26-year-old newlywed and a 32-year-old semi-professional, and you, you really think that things are headed in a certain way, and at 50 you look up and say, okay, here's the things that have gone well, and here's the things, and my hands are bigger, here's the things that haven't gone well. It's easy to see the haven't gone well. And so now, what do I do, and where am I going? And I started this path as a behavioral scientist. I moved from a behavioral scientist to an HR specialist. I moved from an HR specialist to a personally trained chef. Clearly, when I walked out of college almost 30 years ago, I didn't see this future. I didn't see this path. I didn't see this walk. And I have to decide, I have to redefine success for myself. I have to redefine my future goals for myself so that I can say, hey, babe, here's where I am, and here's who I am, and here's where I'm going. And then we can see how that aligns with the same process Dee has for herself.
I had to have some space to figure it out. So, house sitting is a part of my strategy. We'll be doing house sits together. Rick and Halisi have talked about doing house sits together, but I'm doing some by myself. I'm talking about not a weekend. I'm gone successive weeks because I need the space to bump around. We still connect. We stay connected. One of the things from the Drew Barrymore show that we put in the description around reconnecting as empty nesters, the counselor talked about having experiences independent of your partner that aren't related to work, that aren't related to your everyday, that you then can come back and share. I should have friends that are not connected to my partner. It massages new areas of it awakens or gives space for new parts of your personality. You have to have that. It has to be intentional. But what I want to say around self exploration is I'm learning about myself and I'm sharing that with my partner.
And I will be forthcoming in saying that that has been more of a challenge for me than I expected it to be. Of the two of us, I am the more classical extrovert. My wife is a cautious personality. It's one of the things I love about her. It keeps us from stepping into places that, meeting people and running off and then having to figure out how to back out of them quick, because I'll jump in. But what's happening as I've gotten older, I recognize not only do I have to reevaluate who I am, not as a father, just as a father anymore. Who am I, not even as a husband anymore? I don't smoke cigars, so I'm not at the cigar lounge. I don't drink, so I'm not at the bar. I ain't been on the court in a minute. These legs, they don't do what they used to do. And all of those things are things that, to some form or fashion, I probably should engage more. But I also am recognizing and admitting that I'm becoming far more cautious about the people I allow in my space. You've heard me say it before. As an empath, I am even more protective of my energy space as I get older. But because of that, I don't really have a circle of people with whom I engage outside of the four people who I have lived with. Um, I don't like going to dinner alone. That's not fun to me.
I love
That's
it.
Yeah. See, that's not fun to me. I don't like going to a movie alone. I mean, I will, but I mean, that's not. There's an engagement process. So the trick for me then is finding the personal space so that I can reevaluate the me time, but also finding a community of people who I enjoy spending time with, who I feel safe with. And I never thought I'd say that. Who I feel safe with on a number of different levels, so that I can spend time, as weird as this sounds, away from my wife. It's not on my to-do list, you know, because I look at it like this. I'm gone 10, 12, 14 hours a day. The one person I want to see most at the end of the day is my wife. Why would I then come home and go out? There's so much I want to share with her about, even though we talked on the phone all day long. Yeah, I'm still that guy. But I have to, I'm having to recognize, in this month that she was gone, in this first house sit, and in these couple of weeks she'll be gone on this house sit. Listen, I hate it. But I appreciate it. I respect it. A couple of days ago, our youngest went to stay with our other son, his brother, because they had a project going on. And I was in the house alone. And I realized that it's the first time in 13 years I have been in the house alone with nobody overnight. 13 years. So at some point in time, somebody has always been here when I was here. And I enjoyed my quiet. Um, and what I recognized is not that I don't want to spend the time alone, but there's a guilt factor involved.
Mm.
Have I earned this personal space? There's somebody who needs something? And I recognize that a part of that, in several conversations we've had over the course of our channel being here, we talked about taking care of parents. I can't move because my parents might get older, to the point. Some of us are waiting for parents to be at sick points who aren't even sick. Our parents are older, so I got to be here. We don't live with them. We don't live near them. We don't see each other, but we're worried about what they're going to do. Our children have been on their own for years, but we're hanging around because the kids might, and then the grandkids might. In that reprioritization space, what might I?
Mm.
What might I? And self-exploration is hard. It's hard because you have to be honest to yourself that you have been neglecting yourself. A part of the moving abroad process, even though there's the joy of wanting to spend time with the woman I love, but there's also a self-exploration process. She says, "Oh, you need to take a trip alone." I'm not looking forward to that. Yeah, because, but I understand the importance of it. So anyway, go ahead, Ray.
Men, I what I appreciate um, is, I've talked about the communities of Black women that are moving abroad. That has been really easy to reach out and connect with other like-minded people. It's why I think a lot of us are together in this space now. Is that connection? I think for men, that ready group tribe, where it's visible. Um, I think we have to create those kinds of intentional communities. It's why who are we, a path to reconnecting, especially, is intentional for us to move abroad, because we are prioritizing places
Mm-hmm,
that have community,
mm-hmm,
where men are visible in the group, women are visible in the group. We have little chats. We go over to the side where we're Instagram. We follow each other on Instagram. We're Facebook friends. When you can get that when you can identify something that you can connect to with people, it makes the process of continuing or expanding outside of the casual
Hmm.
comment possible. And so when we're looking, and uh, I see the Portugal group. I see y'all ready visible when we are in the different cities in Mexico, San Miguel, Puerto Vallarta, Mexico City. I see the intention in which people are gathering, and we are pushing ourselves to develop some of that, to get a taste for that, to see the urgency of doing that, because I know it is a part of the game changing um, recognition of I'm an empty nester. I got to be intentional, but I don't have to figure it out. I don't have to create a community by my. That's a heavy lift when you're already trying to figure it out.
And I think also D is that we've learned as people of color to create phobias. Say that, share that with your servant teacher Nikki. We've created phobias. That there is a part of me that feels more vulnerable walking down the street alone than I do when I have my wife with me, because I'm just a black guy walking. And trying to move away from, you know, those kind of issues. It's a big deal. I'm like Rick. I don't sleep. Rick don't sleep well. I do not sleep well at night when she's gone. I go to sleep, but yeah. So I'm the same, and learning to be honest with that fact helps me to. I'm trying to learn to prepare for those things. Not sure what's happening today. All right, we'll hit a few more of these. Here's an obvious one. Let's see. All right, so here's an obvious one. So while we have the time that we have and we're doing the smart things, it gives us a chance when the kids are gone to rekindle the romance. Now, I'm going to say something here because I think this is important. I think everybody is hoping for this one. It's the obvious, and something that we've been saying the last several months, and that I will reiterate again. What you practice today is what you will do in your future. If you're waiting for the children to be gone to rekindle your romance, you won't. That doesn't mean that you won't have a time frame. You'll go through another honeymoon period, but busy life is busy life. And you've got to be willing to say, what are we doing with each other now? So as soon as the kids were old enough and I could leave them here or leave somebody here with them, we're going out. If we didn't do nothing, we go to the park and walk. Spending time rebuilding a level of intimacy that was beyond momentary or scheduled. Bringing back spontaneity. We are simply because we are. Yes, I spent some money today. Yes, we're going to go out to eat. No, we really should save this money to do so and so and so. But why are we denying ourselves to spend a little time on ourselves and on each other? This is a big deal. This one is pretty much self-explanatory. I
It
mean,
i- it
go ahead.
is the rekindle the romance. Okay, so the our first year, I was like, I miss dating, and I couldn't figure out why. I don't know if you remember when I said, I miss hearing you talk about me in your future.
Mm,
And I was like, that's what I loved, when we were imagining, and when we get married and then, when we have children together and just kind of hearing that future planning was romantic to me. It helped me to see you wanted me today and into your future. And the rekindling part of the romance needed time for you to be thinking also about, okay, it's more than just the everyday things. I see a future. I continue to see a future with you. There are people who question, do you still want me around?
Mhm. D
And
Now,
so
and the men's
that part of,
men's
and then
question is, "Do you need me?"
ooh,
That's a constant male question. Do you need me? You've gotten so busy, you've gotten so independent. Do you need me? And again, we're talking about two perspectives of looking at things. You're saying, you know, I miss you talking about the future. And I think sometimes as men, we get into the I brought you to the future. I brought you to the things I promised. And I'm working on the continuance process of that. But saying, hey, here's how I'm financially planning for you if something happens to me. Here's how I'm planning. Here's how I'm saving up some time so that we can have some time together. Here's how I'm planning on our retirement when we're not old. And those things I think sometimes are, again, in the head. They're the unspokens. They're the it's like, you know hearing your grandmother say, hearing your parents say they didn't hear that their father say he loved them, but I knew he loved me. Because as men, we're raised on actions speak louder than words. We're raised on that. We're trained that way. We're built that way, and forget sometimes that simply saying, "Hey, I love you. Hey, I'm taking care of this," and to hear from the person you love the most, for her to hear her say, "Hey, I need you to help me with this. Hey, I'd like for you to, take today off. Hey, I'd like you to." Ladies, it's okay to say that. It's okay to share that. As men, we are more so than the stereotype. Knowing that our partner wants to be with us, wants to spend time with us, needs us to engage, and that's a beautiful thing. And I'm thank you for continuing to let me court you. I say that publicly.
but I wanted to say, last night we were talking about this trip and I was just like, man, this is, I don't know if I want to spend all this money. I was like, but other things gonna need to take a back seat because this is what we need. And I know if you didn't say it out loud, I could hear how proud you were to hear me say that. Because y'all, there were a lot of times, and we've shared this before, things would come up. We were supposed to take a trip for our anniversary. We were supposed to take, what did servant teacher Nikki say? We were supposed to take a fast and furious weekend spontaneous trip, and the car would go down, or the kids would have have a requirement, and we were just like, okay, we only have this little pot of money. What do we do? Now I'm just like, yeah, it's gonna have to wait because I need this.
Mm-hmm.
I need,
Mm-hmm.
and romance looks the same and looks different. I don't need
Yeah.
expensive trips. I've never needed that. But what I think my partner has needed was for me to lay down in my spirit,
Mm.
to know that even if it's just We're going to sit on the couch together, that you have my complete, undivided attention. I'm not trying to do anything. My cell phone is in a different room. There are no distractions. I'm not making lists. I'm not thinking about work. That is romantic to me. And it, you, we share.
Mhm.
It came from the sharing where I recognized I'm doing things that might undermine the romantic aspects we could have. It doesn't take money. Sometimes it can be the attention, the
Doing
focus.
the doing nothing together. Absolutely, Cheryl. I mean, attending, knowing that someone is attending to you, and we're not talking about doing things for you. Just the phone is not distracting them from you. The children are not a built-in barrier to you. That is that is a big deal. Let's move forward.
Yeah, we
Working,
can do one more because I this one.
yeah. This one, and I think I'm going to tie this one and work-life balance together. So it's health and work-life balance. Because I think for us, and I'm speaking about D and I as a couple, those have been intertwined. Okay. I was I was 40, 45 years old. I went to work for my alma mater. I was proud to do so as one of the executive chefs with the hospitality company that was there. When I got there, the program was in crisis. The young people had just I started on Monday. The Friday before, the students had just protested the cafeteria. I came in to try to bring in what I felt was what we did not have as students when we had been there 20 plus years before. A lot of the students who were there at the time were children of our peers when we attended. So it was a big deal to serve. We went into a big we went into a big we had a lot of staffing problems, staffing changes from the food service director to the other executive chefs to the number of workers we actually had available, and I put in hard. At the same time, I was having some dental issues, which the pain sent my blood pressure through the roof, and that was from the spring of one semester through the fall of the next semester of 2019. In the spring of 2020, I had a stroke. I had what's called a what is it
TIA.
TIA,
Mm.
um, and I had been having symptoms that I had been trying to get explored. So, and I didn't have the kind of stroke that is obvious. I didn't have the confusion and the disability. And what I found out, I had a stroke when I went to the hospital trying to figure out what was wrong with me because part of my body was not responding correctly at 46. Um,
It made me pause and say, enough.
yeah, because we were trying to make it happen. Now, here's something I need you to know. We didn't immediately get that right. We didn't immediately change. Even now, I'm having to be very conscious about it because you know Sunday, Sunday and Monday were hell here. I put in 12 hours of work and then would help my daughter move after doing that, and then got up the next morning and finished helping her moving before taking my wife to her flight. It was 2 days of crazy because it doesn't take long to jump in too hard and then just be off the scales. And by the time I finished work on yesterday, I was completely burnt up. And I had to take a step back and say, okay, starting some bad habits. And sometimes I pay attention to it because I see it here. I see it here. Uh, I want to live as long a life as the divine will allow me.
And quality.
And quality of life. I do not want to be at a place where I can no longer give because I burned myself out. I want to be here to share this life as long as possible. And so work life balance, and we D and I walk together. I need to, going back to talking about the independent living, the independent self. I need to walk when she's not here. I need to exercise when she's not here, because I want to be here regardless.
The temptation as an empty nester is, now I can work. I can, so we have our day jobs, I can say that. And we have our individual businesses, and we're investing in this YouTube channel as a vehicle of just sharing our learning experience. You feel like you can put more irons in the fire when we're talking about life work balance, because I've flipped it. Life work balance, work must fit into the life that I want. Moving abroad is allowing us to reconnect
Mm-hmm.
to the priority of health first, life and living first. Work is complementary,
Mm-hmm.
working in a way that allows us to do the things that we want to and not, y'all, when I looked at, we paid off all this debt. I mean, like six-figure debt, and you're still in a financial loop because of healthcare cost, the inflation. I was just like, I'm still fighting for my life, and I just got rid of a crap load of debt. Are you kidding me? No,
Mm-hmm.
this has got to change. My life will look different. When we got on the same page, when we connected in that way, when we said, I've got more years, I might have more years behind me than in front of me, it made us say, what do we need to peel away? It doesn't have to make sense. Our life work balance, our health priorities don't have to make sense for anyone else but us.
Mm-hmm.
But being on that same page, connecting and feeling supported, Herm, with you in this process is a game changer. Get out here, get your own path, because it's there. If you need to trailblaze it because you didn't have parents or you don't have mentors, that you can be who you wanted, because somebody is watching.
Mm-hmm.
Rick and Halisi are our mentors. We've said that before. We um, we have found other couples that are connecting in a similar fashion to make their life and work more in sync. Get you a community that's doing the thing. Black marriages, and I can speak to that because I'm Black and I'm married. And this is my personal reflection. We
Mm-hmm.
are, if you look at our marriage statistics in the US, probably in the UK as well, and Canada, we are less likely to marry. When we get married, we're more likely to divorce. When I got married to stay married. While it is a healthy choice, if it no longer is a healthy choice, then I have other decisions to make. But I am fighting to be part of Black culture that represents realistic, healthy Black midlife, mid career adult women, adult men, adult couples. That's what we are putting into the world. Connecting is a game changer for our children, our community, but that's what I want to put into the world. We are out here living and loving as Black people. We're making it work together, but it must be intentional because everything in this life will try to pull at you,
Oh,
distract you,
absolutely.
and pull away.
Absolutely.
Let's get in. Get out there, make your path, find your vision individually and together. I am so honored to be in this space and to and make these pleas to think.
It is always a blessing and an honor to have a community on here with us in these conversations. I see Demarius McLean. Thanks for joining our conversation with us. Cheryl T. Rick and Halisi, always blessed to have you here. Servant teacher Nikki. I know Sabongale is probably gone. Professor LCH. It's always great to see all the people here for joining in the conversation because it is a conversation. We are sharing what we're learning and we continue to learn from you as
And
always.
don't forget my friend April. Hey April. Thank you
Oh,
so
I'm
much for
sorry.
joining.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm sorry, April. You know, I enjoy the loving and the learning we get from these conversations um, because it is our desire to continue to grow individually, collectively, and as a part of a larger community. So we hope that always you will like this video, stop a minute, hit the like button right now. There's a 900 people on here today. Wink, wink. So we need to make, I need to see a lot of likes, but also subscribe. Don't just pop in, subscribe to us and, and share this content with others. We are a part of a community of Black couples, finding other Black couples, sharing with other Black couples about this opportunity to using moving abroad as a plan A.
Mhm. Mhm.
Doesn't have to be your only plan, doesn't have to be your only option, but it does not have to be your last option. It can be your first option. And these conversations and conversations with other YouTubers like us, like Our Black Utopia, are out here to help you find an option to maximize your life at its best potential, even if it's not here in our birth home.
Mhm.
We look forward to seeing you every Saturday, same time, same D channel. I'm Herman,
I'm Dee. Y'all please
and
have a great rest of the day.
we're H&D Abroad. We look forward to seeing you soon. Y'all take it easy.
Bye for now.